A deep blue light shimmered in the sky above Earth's capital. Thousands of people stood still in silence, eyes locked on the massive hologram that hovered like a god in the clouds. It was the seal of the Galactic Council 6 golden rings, spinning around a dark star. Then came the voice, effective immediately. The alien voice declared in a cold, emotionless tone, "Humanity is hereby outlawed from the Galactic Accord. All colonies must be dismantled. All Terran ships are to be destroyed. All humans beyond Earth are to be hunted down." Gasps broke out across cities, towns, and outposts, on giant screens across every tablet in every home. The message repeated, Earth was now alone. Worse, humanity was now hunted, but far from Earth. In the deep silence of space, other eyes watched the broadcast with calm certainty. Inside a black stealth cruiser parked in the shadow of an asteroid, Captain Mara Stone stared at the Council's transmission on her private screen. Her crew stood quietly behind her. No one spoke until the message ended. "They noticed us," Mara said softly, "but far too late." The room stayed quiet for a moment longer. Then Lieutenant Kane stepped forward. "Ma'am, are we initiating Operation Emberfall?" Mara turned, her eyes sharp and focused. "Yes, wake the colonies, light the web. It's time we remind the galaxy. We're everywhere." A silent nod passed between the officers. Moments later, across a network of hidden relays, encrypted, pulses shot through the stars. Each signal hit a listening beacon tucked inside deep caves, hidden moons, and disguised mining rigs. Lights blinked to life in secret human colonies places the Council never even knew existed. On the lush jungle world of Gesseronine, farmers looked up as emergency coms lit up in red. On icy Dranaxes, children stopped their games as alarms echoed. Across underground domes, on the gas giant's orbiting station called Dauntless, former engineers turned warriors ran to control rooms, wiping dust off terminals that hadn't been used in years. Back on the cruiser, Mara watched blinking lights populate a holographic map of the stars. Green meant contact, yellow meant delayed response, red meant silence. 37 colonies confirmed active, Kane reported. 8 are still dark. Mara narrowed her eyes. We get them back online, or we get them out. But there was no time to wait. Council fleets would already be moving patrols, bounty hunters, mercenaries. The galaxy would soon burn with the hunt for human blood. What about Earth? Kane asked. Earth's too loud, Mara replied. Too visible. It's on its own now. Our job is out here in the shadows. Meanwhile, deep inside the Androran belt, a small alien freighter drifted peacefully along a trade route. Inside the pilot, a lizard-like creature named Vorkin hummed a tune while sipping red nectar from a metal cup. Then his ship jolted. Warning, unauthorized access detected. The ship's AI warned. External breach in cargo hold. Vorkin's hand trembled. He dropped his cup and scrambled to the control panel, trying to lock the airlocks. But the command failed. Then a message appeared on his screen. White text on black remained calm. We are everywhere. He stared, heart pounding. Terrans, he whispered in horror. From the shadows of his ship, black-suited figures moved silently. They took nothing, just attached small relay boxes to the communication grid and slipped away before any scanners could catch them. By the time Vorkin dared to move, they were gone. Rumors began to spread, first in whispers, then in panic, that the humans hadn't disappeared. They had multiplied. That they were hidden in places no one imagined. That they could strike from shadows, take over trade ships, and vanish without trace in the grand hall of the Galactic Council. Panic brewed behind closed doors. They were supposed to be isolated, cried Chancellor Nuvax, slamming his tentacle. On the table, they signed the accord. Earth agreed to containment. They lied, replied Admiral Threx, a hard-faced war veteran from the Drather species. I warned you, the Terrans were never playing by our rules. They spread before we even knew they were moving. Another elder stood up. We must mobilize all fleets. If we delay, we risk rebellion across the sectors. But how did they do this in secret? Someone asked. How did Earth hide this? Many colonies. No one had the answer, but Mara Stone did. Years ago, after first contact, Earth had quickly realized the Council would never truly accept them. The other species feared their aggression, their speed of progress, their refusal to submit. So Earth played along on the surface, but underneath they prepared. The Human Expansion Initiative was born. Dozens of colony ships were launched in stealth, guided by AI, buried in asteroid fields, hidden under fake mining ops. Thousands of families lived there in peace, building towns, growing crops, raising children in secrecy. Until now they had to survive. Inside one such colony, on the forest moon of Nethys, settlers gathered in the central square. Governor Vela, a former military commander, addressed her people. "The council will come," she said, "and they won't ask questions. But we are not helpless. We have defenses thanks to Earth." Just as she spoke, a silver streak tore across the sky. Everyone turned. A council gunship was descending. "We don't have time." Someone shouted. Vela opened a comms channel and spoke just one word: execute. Far above, hidden within the clouds, a Terran stealth cruiser powered up its weapons. A split second later, it fired. The gunship exploded in midair, raining molten pieces across the jungle like burning hail. Children screamed and ran, but no one was hurt. The people stared in awe. Someone began to cheer in orbit. The Terran ship vanished, once more silent, deadly, and invisible. Across the stars, similar scenes played out. Human colonies rising in defense. Terran strike teams disabling enemy stations. Drones reactivating long-lost beacons. Each move calculated, each step precise. On board her command ship, Captain Mara watched it all unfold on the star map. "Hold the edge," Kane said, walking beside her. "Not for long," Mara replied. "Soon they'll send full fleets. Then what do we do?" Mara stared at the swirling galaxy before her. Her voice was quiet, but strong. The freighter Lunari Drift glided through the dark of space. Its cargo bays were full of fresh supplies, fuel cells, nutrient bars, and encrypted data cores, all headed toward the inner systems of the Galactic Council. The pilot, Zar, a pale blue creature with 4 fingers and sharp silver eyes, sat in the cockpit alone. He sipped warm root juice, watching the stars outside the viewport. Zar didn't fear the humans. They were banned, gone, chased from the galaxy like criminals. He had nothing to worry about. That was his first mistake. The second came when he ignored the blinking red icon on his navigation panel. System ping detected. His AI chirped. Zar glanced at the screen. "False alarm," he muttered, waving a hand. The freighter kept flying, but something was wrong. Too quiet. No other ships on radar, no signal traffic, just silence. Then the lights flickered. ZHAR sat up straight. "AI," he called. "Status." No answer. The ship jerked. Not violently, but enough to feel it in his bones. A low hum echoed from the cargo bay. Zar's hands shook as he pulled up the security feed. Static. Then a brief image, shadows moving. Dark shapes, tall and fast, sliding between crates. "No, no," he whispered. Then a message appeared on the cockpit screen. "Stay calm, we are everywhere." Zar's heart nearly stopped. He jumped up, backing away from the screen. He pressed the emergency beacon, but nothing happened. Dead, no power, no connection, he was alone. Or so he thought. The hatch behind him hissed. Zar spun around, hands raised, but no one stepped through. The corridor remained empty. Silent dot, then a voice came over the ship's speakers. Soft, human, calm. "You have been intercepted by Terran operatives. No harm will come to you. Continue your journey. But speak of this, and you will see us again." The lights returned. Systems came back online. The cargo manifest had not changed, nothing taken, but deep in the nav logs. A new route had been added, set to detour the ship through a sector called Red Echo. It was a dead zone. A place no sane pilot went. Zar didn't change the course. He was too afraid. When the Lunari Drift docked at a council port 3 days later, he said nothing. But whispers began to spread. "The Terrans are here. They're not going there watching. They move through our ships, our stations, our skies." The council knew something had changed. Reports from traders, smugglers, and outpost workers described strange events. Lights flickering, drones going missing, encrypted messages appearing on systems without access. Some said it was ghost code. Others said it was sabotage. But a few knew the truth. Captain Mara Stone sat in her private war room aboard the stealth cruiser Verdict. Around her, Holoscreens displayed shipping routes, planetary defenses, and council convoy patterns. Her team worked in silence, tapping screens, redirecting shipments. Analyzing gaps in the grid, Lieutenant Kane pointed to a new report from Sector R9. Another freighter tagged, "No alarms triggered, no damage, just a route rerouted." Mara nodded, "Good. No violence, no blood. They'll fear us more that way." "What if they start arming the freighters?" Kane asked. "They already are," Mara replied, "but it won't help." She turned to a live feed from an orbital relay, one of the many hidden communication hubs the Terrans had built over the last 20 years. That's what the Council never understood. Earth didn't just send ships into space. They sent systems webs of silent control, buried deep into the galaxy's veins. For every ship the Council saw, there were 10 they didn't. That was the point. "The whispers are working," Kane said. "The markets are panicking. Prices are spiking. Trade lanes are being rerouted." "Good," Mara said. "Disruption is our weapon." In a dark room on Council Central, Chancellor Nuvax read the reports with growing anger. "This is a game," he hissed. "A game of fear and shadows." Admiral Threx stood behind him, arms folded, eyes hard, "And we are losing," Threx said plainly. Nuvax slammed the report down. "We need to show strength. Strike where they don't expect." "We don't know where they are," Threx replied. "Every freighter that gets touched goes silent. No bodies, no evidence, just rumors." "We outlawed them," Nuvax shouted. "We declared them enemies of the galaxy." "Why are they still out there?" "Because," Threx said slowly, "they never cared about our laws." Back aboard the Verdict, Mara paced the deck, deep in thought. The Council was slow, predictable. Terran movements had always been faster-surgical. Her comms officer stepped forward. "Ma'am. Message from Gesara Colony. One of our sleeper teams intercepted a Council spy drone. It tried to scan for life signs. Did it report back? No. They took it out before it could." "Good. Make sure they rotate frequencies. I want no signals leaking, not yet." But not every planet was safe. In the drifting desert colony of Vardo Station, a Terran agent named Roan received a silent alert, one of the old codes. Council warships were approaching. Too early, he tapped his communicator. "This is Eco 7. We have incoming 2 destroyers. Not patrol craft. Heavily armed." The voice on the other end came quickly. "Evacuate. Leave no trace." Roan looked around. The colony held over 200 settlers, many of them children. "Too late to run, we hold," he said. He gathered the other agents. They sealed off the data vaults, disabled communications, and activated the decoy beacon. From orbit, the Council ships would see only a dead mining site. When the destroyers arrived, they scanned, and saw nothing. They left. Later, Roan stood beneath the stars, arms folded, smiling to himself. "They really don't know what we've built," he whispered. Back on the Verdict, Kane turned to Mara again. "The Council's scared," he said. "They should be," she replied. "This isn't a war of armies. It's a war of presence, a war of fear." Kane looked at the growing list of affected trade lanes. "How long can we keep this up?" "As long as we need," Mara said. "We were everywhere before the ban. Now we just remind them." And across the stars, as more freighters vanished. From radar, as more ships received silent messages and changed course without knowing why, one truth became clear. The humans were still here, not in the open, not in battle, but in the shadows, in the trade lanes, in the systems no one watched. And every time someone asked, "Where are the Terrans?" the answer echoed quietly across the galaxy. The sky over Erolos 4 was painted with gentle pink clouds. Soft green grass covered the hills, and clear rivers ran through quiet valleys. It was peaceful, almost forgotten by the rest of the galaxy. For years, the human colony on Erolos had lived in silence. Farmers tilled the soil, engineers maintained old machines, and children played among tall, glowing trees. They had no warships, no heavy weapons, just each other. Then the Council found them. Governor Vela stood on the observation tower, watching the sky through an old pair of binoculars. Her silver hair was tied back, and her uniform, once sharp and clean, was faded from years of dust and sun. But her eyes were sharp. She had seen the ship before her sensors picked it up, a sleek, black gunboat council military. It flew in fast, no warning, no message. The moment it entered the atmosphere, alarms blared across the colony. Emergency. Protocol, Vela ordered into her comm. Get everyone to shelter. Activate fallback systems. Governor, her chief engineer said from the command center. They didn't hail us. They're coming in hot. I know, she said calmly. They're not here to talk. The citizens rushed through the streets, herded by trained volunteers into underground bunkers. Farmers carried children, old men pulled open shelter hatches. Drones swept through the sky, scanning for stragglers. Inside the Central Command dome, Vela stared at the hologram of the descending ship. They're going to land right in the middle of town, someone said. No, Vela replied. They're not landing. Look at the trajectory. That's a direct fire run. The room went silent. They're going to burn us down, she finished coldly. For a moment, even her officers didn't know what to say. They had rifles, maybe. A few cannons built for meteor defense, but they had no chance against a council warship. But Vela wasn't finished. She opened a secure channel. It was old, nearly forgotten, buried deep in the colony's systems. She spoke one word, execute. Far above the planet, something stirred. A Terran stealth cruiser, long dormant and hidden behind the planet's moon, came to life. Hull shimmered, breaking from the asteroid camouflage that had hidden it for years. Inside, automated systems activated. Weapons charged. Shields came online. The ship had only one job: protect Erelos. When the Council gunboat entered its strike path, the cruiser fired. 3 railgun shots screamed across space. They moved too fast for any sensor to detect, too precise for any pilot to dodge. The gunboat exploded in midair, its burning wreckage falling toward the fields below. People stared up from the bunkers. Children watched through small windows. As chunks of metal rained like silver fire, a long streak of smoke cut across the sky. Then, silence, no more ships, no more threats. Governor Vela stepped out of the command dome and looked up. Message received. She whispered, in orbit, the Terran cruiser disappeared once a dead's mission complete. Later that day, the colony gathered in the main square. People were quiet, unsure what to feel. Relief, fear, pride. Vela stood on the old stone platform at the center. She looked out at the faces she had protected. Families who had trusted her for 10 years. I know many of you are afraid, she said. We've lived in peace, hidden, for so long. But now the Council knows we're here. Whispers passed through the crowd. But we are not alone. Earth didn't forget us. That defense system was left here for a reason. The Terran network. Is Activon watching? Someone asked. Will they come back? Vela nodded. Yes, and we'll be ready. The colony went to work that night. Engineers reconnected old systems. Families dug deeper shelters. Volunteers trained with old Terran gear hidden in armories they'd hoped to never open. Children were taught emergency drills. The entire town became a fortress in silence. Meanwhile, far across space, Captain Mara Stone read the report on her cruiser. She studied the Council ship's approach. Its weapons were hot. The scan showed it had prepared a firebomb run on a civilian colony. No warning, no contact, just a planned execution. They're not hunting us, Mara said. They're trying to erase us. Lieutenant Kane stood nearby, but we didn't let them. Mara tapped the screen. No, we stopped one. There will be more. She turned to her team. We escalate. If they bring fire, we bring lightning. If they push harder, we hit first. But how? Kane asked. They control most of the jump gates, most of the comm networks. They think they own the stars. Mara smiled coldly. Let them think that. We'll remind them they only rent them. Across the stars, the Erelos incident sparked questions. News. Leaked a Council ship destroyed during a routine mission. Some said it was pirates. Others claimed the ship malfunctioned. But among smugglers, refugees, and forgotten colonies, a rumor spread like wildfire. The Terrans are fighting back. Admiral Threx read the classified report in the Council war chamber. He scowled. That was no pirate ambush. That was precision. Orbital fire, human tech. Chancellor Nuvax was furious. They've weaponized their colonies. They were always weapons, Threx said. We just never saw the trigger. Other members of the Council whispered in fear. If one colony had defense systems. How many more did... How did they even build all this under our noses? Someone asked. They didn't build it, Threx answered. They buried it. Long ago. The council declared emergency authority. They began scanning sectors for energy spikes, hunting, hidden bases, tightening patrols. But it was already too late. The humans were ahead, always one step faster. On Erelos 4, night fell quietly. Governor Vela stood outside, looking at the stars. She didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. She simply waited. The next attack would come. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not for weeks, but it would come. And when it did, Erelos would not be silent. They had fought back once, they would do it. Again, because humans weren't just survivors anymore. They were everywhere. Deep inside a lifeless asteroid field where no stars could shine, something massive slept. It had slept for years quiet, cold, and hidden behind layers of rock, radiation dampeners, and sensor SCRAMBLERS. This was Gravepoint Station, but it was not a station. It was a vault, a graveyard of warships. Or so everyone believed. Then, one signal changed everything. It came in a tight burst, barely traceable, just a single code, sent across a hidden Terran relay. Emberfall the silence. Ended. Inside the asteroid's core, lights flickered to life, one by one. Row after row of Terran ships, destroyers, cruisers, support carriers lit up like stars reborn. Engines powered up with a low rumble. Blue core lights hummed inside, metal giants that had not moved in decades. On the command deck of the lead ship, TNS Valiant, hatches opened and drop pods rained down from orbit. Each carried a pilot, engineer, or marine sleepers trained for one purpose: reactivation. Commander Elias Ward, tall and calm, stepped onto the bridge of the Valiant. Dust coated the floor. Warning lights blinked on dusty consoles. Status, he asked as he placed his hand on the console. It scanned him, confirmed identity, and unlocked the full system. All systems operational, the AI replied. Fleet wake-up cycle at 68%. Estimated full activation for hours. Ward looked through the viewport at the sea of awakening ships. Then let the galaxy wake with us. He turned to his second officer, Lieutenant Rhea Coven. Rhea, connect us to command. She opened a secure channel. Moments later, Captain Mara Stone's face appeared on screen. Commander Ward reporting, he said. Gravepoint Armada is coming online. 52 ships, stealth cores intact, weapons at 90%. Will be ready for orders within the hour. Mara nodded. Good. The Council is starting to patrol the border systems. They're getting bold. I need your fleet to remind them why they were right to fear us. Ward smiled faintly. With pleasure. She leaned in. Start with the trade lanes around Hexer Prime. Make them see ghosts. Understood? The channel closed. Ward looked at his bridge crewsome, still sealing their suits, some wiping years of frost from the control panels. He said only 3 words. Begin the hunt. Far away, the Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. Their patrols near Erelos 4 had found the wreckage of a destroyed gunship. No survivors, no black box, just melted hull and plasma residue. What weapon did this? Chancellor Nuvax demanded. Admiral Threx stepped forward. Terran railguns, and not the portable kind. These were ship-class weapons, orbital grade. Impossible, another leader argued. We've seen their fleet numbers. They have maybe 5 active ships. Threx shook his head. No, they had 5 that we knew about. He dropped a report on the table. Our sensors detected strange energy surges in an old asteroid field, barely readable. No life signs, no comms. But then 2 trade convoys went missing near that same location within a day of each other. No wreckage, just gone. Do you think it's them? Someone whispered. I don't think, Threx said coldly. I know he pointed to the map. The humans are reactivating a fleet, and we have no idea how many ships they've hidden. Silence fell over the room. Then Nuvax said, send the hunter fleets. All of them. Back at Gravepoint, the Valiant led the fleet from the asteroid field like a shadow rising from the grave. No lights, no signals, just silent movement ships sliding past rocks, gliding into the stars. Each ship was black, coated in radar-absorbing metal, with holes built to blend into darkness. These were not parade ships. These were ambush weapons born from Earth's darkest war plans. Their engines were quiet. their weapons hidden behind armored panels, and their AI cores constantly jammed enemy sensors. The Terran Silent Armada was awake. They didn't go straight to battle. They didn't attack planets. They cut off the galaxies. Veins. Convoys began disappearing. Communications relays failed. Council fuel depots were destroyed by sudden explosions no one saw coming. Security drones malfunctioned. Patrol ships entered empty space and never came back. And always, always, a message followed. You banned us. We were already there. Captain Mara Stone watched it all unfold from her operations ship. Every confirmed hit added to her star map. She traced the strikes like brushstrokes on a war canvas. Every world they control, she said, we surround it with silence. Kane watched too, his voice soft. They'll panic. They already are. On the council world of Thresk, a shipping executive was found screaming in the street. They're in my systems. In my systems, he shouted. I opened a cretonne. There was a human note inside. How did they get there? Others followed. Station logs showed Terran signatures where none should exist. Drones began self-destructing at random. High-ranking council officers received anonymous holomessages warning them to leave their posts. It was psychological warfare, and it was working. Admiral Threx, however, was not scared. He was furious. He called a meeting with the High Council. You want fear? Fine. But if you want control back, we strike hard. He pointed at the map. We've identified one of their staging zones. Read, Echo Nebula. Our long-range probes caught a brief energy spike. I want to send Fleet Omega. They'll see us coming, one senator warned. Then they'll know we're not hiding anymore. Permission was granted. The Omega Fleet 10 heavy cruisers, 20 destroyers, was sent into Red Echo. They never made it out. The moment they entered the nebula, their sensors jammed. Their engines glitched. And then the ambush came. From behind, plasma storms, the Terran Silent Armada struck, railguns tore through hulls. EMP blasts crippled engines. Boarding pods slammed into the sides of council ships, cutting through metal like knives through paper. No transmissions escaped. By the time a recon drone finally entered the nebula days later, all it found was silence and floating debris. Another message appeared on every council terminal. The grave is open. We are the storm. Commander Elias Ward stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching the remains of Omega Fleet scatter into space. He turned to Rhea. The signal to Captain Mara. Mission complete. Then he looked out at the stars. They tried to bury us, but we remembered where we were buried, and now they were everywhere. The Iaxian trade hub never slept. Orbiting a dense blue gas giant in Sector 12, the massive station bustled with life. Docking bays flashed with bright lights. Cargo ships came and went every hour. Merchants from over 50 species shouted prices. Security droids patrolled in tight formations. The station moved with confidence, shielded by the strength of the Galactic Council. It was a place of order, a place of routine, until the lights went out. At exactly 0300 station time, every light across the upper half of Iaxian flickered once, then died. For 2 full seconds, the trade hub floated in darkness. Then, emergency red lights kicked in. Sirens blared. Doors whopped. Security turrets dropped from ceilings, scanning blindly in the dim red glow. Stomped into the command tower, her tail lashing with stress. What just happened? She snapped. The technician's voice trembled. Power drain in sectors 5 through 9. Backup systems are isolated. We're locked out of our own controls. Impossible, Vorak growled. This station has triple-layer firewalls. Not even Council cyber units could crack it. But someone had dot far beneath the surface in one of the quiet maintenance tunnels. 3 human operatives crouched low behind a vent shaft. Dressed in black reactive armor, they moved like smoke. Charges set, whispered Agent Nyla, tapping her wristpad. We're good to go. Her partner Jace gave a quiet nod. Then let's disappear. They had come in undetected, masquerading as station workers, cleaning ducts no one ever monitored. Their goal wasn't to destroy Iaxian. That would attract too much attention. Their mission was far more precise. They were there to cut the heart out of the Council's fuel supply. Because beneath Iaxian's shiny trade decks sat the largest starship fuel reserve in the sector. Agent Nyla looked down one last hallway. A single council engineer stood near the core terminal. Just one. Jace stepped forward. Non-lethal. I'll handle it. Before Nyla could respond, he moved, quiet, fast. The engineer barely turned before Jace jabbed a pressure point on his neck. The alien collapsed with a quiet gasp. Clear, he whispered. Nyla moved fast, fingers dancing across the terminal. The codes had already been stolen by Terran spies weeks earlier. She just needed to input the override and sync the explosive devices to remote detonation. Done, she said after a minute. We pull out far above. Commander Vorak still barked orders. I want scans across every dock. Triple check every outgoing vessel. If this is sabotage, I want blood. One of her lieutenants pointed at the monitors. Commander, there's something you need to see. He tapped a feed. The fuel readouts were flashing red. Tanks were purging themselves. Containment valves were breaking open. No, no, no. Vorak slammed her claws against the console. Seal it. Seal the damn tanks. But it was too late. From orbit, a small human stealth shuttle detached from Eaxian's docking ring. Its crew of 3 watched the station shrink behind them. Ready? Nyla said. Jace looked at her. You sure about this? It's not just about the station, she replied. This cuts off fuel to 7 council sectors. She pressed the button. Back on Eaxion, every cargo loader, every merchant. Every officer heard it. Boom. A deep, low pulse echoed through the metal bones of the station. Then another dot fuel tanks erupted, one after another, in carefully timed detonations. The entire lower deck trembled. Shock waves slammed through the foundation. Fires lit up the night side of the station, casting orange sparks into space. Fuel drained into open vacuum. Emergency systems kicked in, trying to lock down containment failing. Commander Vorak stood frozen. The impossible had happened. The Terrans were here far away. Aboard the TNS Verdict, Captain Mara Stone watched the detonation from a long-range probe feed. A red circle blinked on her star map. Eaxion's name turned gray. Kane raised an eyebrow. That station won't recover for weeks, maybe months. They'll recover, Mara said, but they won't trust their systems again. She zoomed out on the map. Fuel shortages, trade delays, blocked jump gates. And now the loss of Eaxion's core reserves, one by one. The Council's power was being drained. We're bleeding them, she said quietly, without lifting a single flag. Kane leaned closer. Won't this force them to act? They'll come down hard. I want them to, Mara said, because the more ships they send after us, the more systems they leave unguarded. News of the Eaxion sabotage spread like wildfire. Traders cursed the delays. Merchants screamed over lost cargo. Fuel prices doubled in 3 days. Black market stations became rich overnight, but no one could prove who did it. No ships were seen. No witnesses could describe the attackers. Only a short message appeared on the public net. You banned us, but we still move your stars. Admiral Threx read the report in silence. This isn't war, he growled. This is cancer. Council leaders begged for tighter security. Patrols were doubled. Bounties for Terrans were raised, but nothing worked. The humans weren't attacking fleets. They were cutting wires, blowing fuel, breaking trust. It was a war of systems, and the Council was losing. Aboard the stealth ship Whisper, Agent Nyla leaned back in her chair. The crew celebrated with hot food and quiet laughter. Jace said, raising a cup. One more piece off the board. Nyla didn't smile. There are hundreds more. Eaxion was the biggest one in this sector, their pilot added. Without it, half the fleets out here are flying on fumes. Good, she replied. Let them crawl. She looked out the viewport, at the stars. The galaxy forgot who we are, she whispered. It's time they remember. Word count, approximately 1,500. The star system of Yevranate was supposed to be safe. No human colonies, no Terran traffic, no recent activity. That's why the Council chose it as the site for their new strategic command post, a massive floating station called Cradle of Order. It orbited a quiet planet, far from trade lanes. Wrapped in powerful defense fields, they believed no one could reach them there. They were wrong from the edge of the system. A Terran recon drone drifted silently. It looked like a piece of scrap metal, burnt, broken, unimportant. But inside it held the eyes and ears of the TNS Verdict, Captain Mara Stone stared at the holographic image of the Cradle of Order. Slowly rotating above YEV, RON-8, she leaned forward. How many active comms channels? Lieutenant Kane replied, 12. Military grade. They're coordinating patrol routes, deployments, and response teams from that hub. It's the heart of their operations out here. And they're blind. Spot, she asked. Kane tapped a point on the 3D map. Southern arc radiation belt interferes with long-range scans. If we move in behind the belt, we can stay hidden. Mara nodded. Prep the signal team. No weapons, no blood, just silence. Her crew went to work. The plan was simple. Destroy nothing. Leave no trace. Just take the Council's most secure command post and make it deaf. Inside the Cradle of Order, General Ashev grumbled as he walked through the corridors. His armor clanked with each step. Another ghost report, he muttered, holding up a datapad. A fuel ship disappeared outside Axis. Point, and some idiot thinks it's human phantoms. His aide kept pace beside him. Sir, we've had 50 similar incidents this month, and they all end the same: no signals, no wreckage, just silence. Coincidence? Ashev snapped. Human fleets are broken. Their homeworld barely defends itself. What we're dealing with is panic. He entered the command deck, where dozens of alien officers monitored flashing screens. Status report, Ashev barked. One technician looked up, pale and shaken. Sir, external relay station 7 just went dark. No alarms, just off. Ashev frowned. Sensor malfunction. Not likely. It was checked this morning, fully operational. Another OFICER called out, Relay Station 4 is also offline. Now 5. One by one, the external stations controlling long-range comms were vanishing, and no one could see why outside. High above the radiation belt, a small Terran ship floated in perfect silence. Inside, 3 black-clad operatives sat at work tapping. Into satellite feeds, jamming signals, overriding systems, come rings collapsing. Whispered Agent Dell, we've disabled 9 nodes. Once we hit 12, they're blind. Agent Vi added, no signs, they know where we are, we're still clean. Dell smiled. Then let's finish the job. They weren't here to blow anything up, they were here to erase the Council's ears, cut them off from their fleets, their patrols, their defense grid. They didn't want attention, they wanted confusion. Inside the cradle, alarms finally sounded. All relays dark. Someone shouted, we've lost contact with Fleet Echo, Theta Command, and 3 patrols. Ashev shouted, reboot the network, use emergency channels. The tech officer hesitated. We can't. The override keys are gone. Gone. Erased, sir. From the system, the general stared in disbelief. No explosions, no weapons, no intrusions. How? A soft voice answered from the shadows of the command deck. They were already here. Everyone turned. A figure stepped out from behind the central console wearing a gray cloak. Face hidden under a hood, guards raised their weapons. Identify yourself, Ashev shouted. The figure lifted a small device and every weapon in the room shut down. Sparks flew. Power drained from their rifles like water down a hole. I came to deliver a message, the figure said. The voice was calm. Human, you built walls, you raised fleets, you passed laws against us. The hood lowered. A woman stood beneath it. Mid-30s, pale eyes, a small scar above one brow. You thought we were gone. Forgotten, she stepped forward. But we were here the whole time. Beneath your floors, inside your systems, watching, Ashev snarled. You're just one spy. I'm a reminder, she said, that no matter how far you run, the Terrans are already closer than you think. And with that, she vanished in a flash of light. An advanced phase cloak device, activating mid-step. Guards ran. Scans failed. Security bots spun helplessly. The Cradle of Order had been breached from within. Back on the verdict, Kane looked stunned. She walked into their command room. Mara smirked. She made sure they remembered the face of what they fear, and now, Mara pointed to the map. Now they're deaf. Their fleets won't know where to go. Their messages will bounce back unanswered. Kane whispered, we've turned their heart into an echo chamber. Exactly in the following days, chaos spread. Council fleets drifted without orders. Patrols crossed into restricted zones and were destroyed by allies thinking they were intruders. Supply ships failed to arrive. Planets cried for help, no answers. Came Dot, they called it the Quiet Panic. And in that silence, humanity moved freely like ghosts in a council war meeting. Admiral Threx slammed his hand on the table. They walked into our command station. They jammed half the sector. "They're not fighting wars," he growled. "They're rewriting the rules." Chancellor Nuvax whispered, "What do they want?" A pause. Then Threx said quietly, "They want us to feel what they felt when we banned them, small, powerless, alone, and outside the windows of the council tower. The stars twinkled peacefully to peacefully, because somewhere out there, Terrans were listening, waiting, watching." Laura's Gate wasn't a gate in the normal sense. It was a massive jump corridor, one of the busiest hyperlane intersections in council space. Dozens of jump gates circled a white dwarf star, linking trade routes from 7 sectors. Everything passed through Laura's Gate warships, food haulers, fuel convoys, and now, the council believed the Terrans would strike it. They were wrong. The Terrans had already set the trap. Admiral Threx stood on the bridge of the council battleship Volern, watching the traffic patterns shift on the main display. Freighters moved slowly, patrols weaved around them. His entire fleet of 21 warships hovered like sentries, forming a tight ring around the primary gate. "They'll come," Threx muttered. "Captain Vel." His second-in-command tilted her head. "If they know we're waiting, they may strike elsewhere." "They've embarrassed us," Threx growled. "They've turned us into fools across the stars. They'll come. They can't help themselves." But he didn't know the truth. The Terrans weren't coming to break through. They had come to trap him inside, on a dead moon orbiting the Laura's Gate star. A Terran stealth team lay in wait, deep beneath the surface, inside a disguised bunker. Commander Elias Ward stood before a hologram of the entire gate complex. He pointed at each critical zone. "Shield generators here, here, and here. Supply Station Bravo handles most of the fleet's fuel, comes relay. In Zone 4, bounces signals across the sector." His engineers nodded, and the mines, Ward asked, buried under their traffic lanes. Replied Tech Specialist Ray, "Nano-coated, undetectable. They won't activate until the fleet shifts to defensive formation." Ward allowed himself a quiet nod. "Good, we let them box themselves in." He looked at the ticking timer. 2 hours, then the curtain falls. Back on the Volorn, Threx watched another civilian freighter drift through the gate, escorted by council drones. "They're using more decoys," Vel said. Threx narrowed his eyes. "That's what I would do. Flood the gate with so much movement that we can't see the real strike." Then something flickered on the screen, barely a shadow. One of the freighters shimmered for a split second, like a cloaking device failing. Threx ordered. The image sharpened, then froze. It wasn't a freighter. It was a Terran signal ship, disguised in a freighter's skin, and it had just broadcasted a silent burst toward the gate. Threx's eyes widened, full alert. "They're already here." There then the mines exploded. From the shipping lanes below the gate, dozens of hidden devices detonated in sequence. The shockwaves didn't target civilians, they targeted the council. Warships .1 destroyer cracked in half. A cruiser spun out of control. Its engines ruptured, 2 more ships lost. Comes as EMP pulses raced through their decks. The trap had been triggered, and the fleet was in the center of it. In the moon bunker, Commander Ward stood still, watching the explosions light up his map. "Detonations confirmed," Ray said. 5 ships disabled, 2 down. The rest scattering into defensive patterns. Ward turned to the strike teams. "Begin Phase 2. In the silent dark of space, 6 Terran warships uncloaked around the edges of the gate corridor. They didn't fire, not yet. They just drifted visible enough to provoke, silent enough to confuse. The Council saw them and reacted exactly as planned. Enemy warships, multiple vectors. Captain Vel shouted, "Form defensive wedge. Push them back." Threx barked. The fleet shifted danned. That's when Phase 2 mines exploded. These weren't ship killers, they were signal scramblers. Within seconds, comes across the Council formation, failed. Fleet-wide coordination collapsed. No one knew who was in charge. No one knew where the real Terrans were, and that was the third trap, aboard one of the cloaked Terran ships. Captain Mara Stone listened to the scrambled Council traffic. It was a mess, conflicting orders, emergency broadcasts. Automated panic codes. They're turning on each other, Kane said. Amazed, Mara didn't smile. That's what happens when you rely on noise. We use silence. The Terrans fired. Only once one railgun slug aimed at a critical refueling station. The explosion wasn't large, but it started a chain reaction. Fuel lines ruptured. The station's stabilizers collapsed. Nearby ships rushed to help, crashing into each other. In the chaos, Captain Vell screamed on the Valarn's bridge, "We need to retreat. We're trapped in our own fire." No Threx shouted, "We stand," but it was already too late. Terran ships never entered direct combat. They vanished again, leaving the Council fleet damaged, disoriented, and surrounded by a minefield. They couldn't map. They weren't fighting a fleet. They were fighting an invisible battlefield. 6 hours later, the smoke cleared. The Council lost 5 ships, 7 more were severely damaged, and no Terran vessel had been captured or even fully confirmed. In every Council database, the report read the same. Attackers unknown. Assumed Terran origin. Casualties confirmed. Admiral Threx sat alone in his private quarters. He hadn't spoken since the fleet limped. Back to safe space, his fingers tapped against the table over and over again. "They didn't want to destroy us," he whispered. "They wanted to show us that we were never safe." Back on the moon base, Commander Ward sent the final message back to Earth Command. Operation Curtainfall complete. No casualties. All units extracted. Gate remains functional, but insecure. Enemy command fractured. Then he turned to his team and said what every Terran officer dreamed of saying. "We own the lanes now." In the weeks that followed, rumors filled the galaxy. Merchants told stories of mines that could not be scanned. Pilots spoke of gates where ships vanished without trace, and one name. Laura's Gate became a whispered warning, because somewhere, out there, among the stars, a message kept appearing in coded pulses. "You banned us, but you still use our roads." The planet Vishara was dead. Long ago, the Council had deemed it unfit for life. Radiation storms, volcanic instability, unstable magnetic fields. No one had lived there for over 50 years. All scans showed the same thing: empty rocks, toxic. Winds, silence. But they missed something. They missed what lived under the rocks, beneath the broken mountains of Vishara. In a cave shielded by ledrich stone, a secret human outpost hummed with quiet energy. It had no name, no beacon, no signal, only one purpose: to hide and to watch. Dr. Ellen Reyes adjusted her breathing mask as she stepped out of the inner lab. The pressure in the tunnels made her ears ache, but she was used to it. She had been living underground. For 6 years, beside her walked Lieutenant Osric Vale, one of the Terran security officers assigned to the outpost. "They spotted a probe last night," he said quietly. Her stomach tensed. "Council, likely. A scout drone. Passive surveillance only. No weapon systems." "They're scanning this system again," she muttered. "They're searching for something." Osric nodded. "Us high above the planet, in orbit just beyond sensor range, a small Council patrol ship drifted quietly. Its captain, Commander Nevik, studied the readouts with a frown. "Radiation signature." "Not natural," he said. "Something's giving off faint energy bursts from Sector 3B. His officer hesitated. "Could be volcanic pulses. Or Terran heat signatures," Nevik said coldly. He tapped a command key. "Prepare a drop team. We're going down." The shuttle launched quietly, slicing through storm clouds. They were coming. Back in the outpost, alarms began to flash. They weren't loud, just soft, blinking red lights. Silence was survival. Osric rushed into the control room. Unidentified ship entering atmosphere. Trajectory matches standard Council landing pattern. ETA for minutes. Dr. Reyes dropped her datapad. "We're not ready to move." "Then we hold the entrance." In a small chamber near the surface tunnel, 3 Terran Marines unpacked silenced railguns. They weren't meant for big fights. Just to buy time, Osric joined them, placing a hand on the old blast door controls. "We trained for this," he said. "No one panics, no one dies for nothing." They waited. The Council shuttle landed gently, its engines stirring dust and ash. Nevik stepped out in full environmental armor, 2 armed soldiers behind him. They approached a jagged cliff, where their scanners showed a strange energy echo. Then the ground shifted. A hidden platform under the rock dropped away, revealing a narrow shaft, a natural carved. Nevik's eyes widened. Secure it now. But before his men could react, a sudden blast of compressed air burst from the shaft, throwing them back, then silence again. Only dust, heat, stone. Still, Nevik raised his cum. "We found something," he said. "This planet isn't dead." Underground, Osric cursed under his breath. "They'll call a full survey team. We have hours at most." Reyes looked at the reactor readings. "We can't evacuate. The vault's cooling core is unstable. If we move it, it melts down." "Then we hold longer," Osric said. "Long enough to finish the data package and send it to command." Hours later, the Council task force arrived. 5 dropships, 40 soldiers, scanners, drones. They surrounded the mountain and began drilling toward the tunnel they had discovered. Commander Nevik stood outside, helmet removed, watching the progress. "We found ghosts," he whispered. "Now let's see who they really are." Below, Osric watched from surveillance feeds. His jaw tightened. "They're using plasma drills. 3 hours, maybe 4, before breach." Reyes worked faster at her terminal. "The AI is cleaning files. Now almost ready to transmit." Osric placed a small data cube beside her. "If they reach us, and I don't make it, you take this. You won." "I'm not leaving," she said flatly. "You will," he said. "This place holds proof. Proof we survived. Proof we adapted. The galaxy needs to see what we became." 3 hours later, the first breach warning flashed red. There in the tunnel, one Marine reported. "Seal level 1, Osric ordered. Prepare fallback to Chamber 6. The Terrans fought like shadows. When the Council troops broke into the upper tunnel, they were met with auto turrets and smoke screens. Terran drones flew silent loops, jamming enemy sensors. For every step the Council took forward, they paid in blood and confusion. Osric and his Marines held the last defense point. But the numbers were growing, and the Council had called for air support. 2 gunships incoming, Reyes warned. ETA 2 minutes. The lab trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. Osric wiped blood from his arm and turned to Reyes. "Time." She pressed the final key. The secure data vault activated, beaming the outpost's entire research package across a black channel toward a distant Terran relay satellite. "We got it out," she said. Osric smiled weakly. "Then we win, no matter what." The tremors grew louder. The doors began to buckle. As Council gunships fired plasma into the mountain, the Terrans triggered their final failsafe. The outpost began to collapse, tunnels sealed with explosive rock, charges buried in silence. 3 days later, Captain Mara Stone received the transmission on the TNS verdict. She opened the decrypted file and stared at the hologram projected in front of her. It was a map of 92 hidden Terran outposts across Council space, each one real, each one operational, each one filled with survivors, scientists, soldiers. Kane stood frozen beside her. They thought we were scattered," he whispered. Mara nodded. "We weren't scattered. We were preparing." Back on Vashara, the Council teams found nothing but rubble. No living humans, no tech, just melted rock. Still, Commander Nevik stood in the ruins, quiet, shaken. "They were here," he said. A soldier asked, "Why would they hide here, on a planet like this?" Nevik stared at the sky. "Because they didn't want us to find them, until they were ready. The war is over, the stars are quiet. But in the deep core of an ancient black hole, something stirs. A vault opens older than the Council, older than Earth. Inside is a single message, written in millions of languages. This is the final cycle. Carter has spoken. The lie is gone, the fire lives, and beside it, a flame that burns, without heat, without fuel." Forever the galaxy stood in silence, not the cold silence of fear, but the soft silence after a long cry. The war was over. The Council had fallen, not by force, but by truth. The Fury fleet had returned home. Earth didn't conquer, it remembered, and now, so did everyone else. In the center of Unity Square, Carter's Echo stood before a gathering of thousands humans, aliens, even former Council species. The statue behind her no longer showed her in chains. It now showed her standing in Flamehand, outstretched not in attack, but in peace. She began to speak. "We were erased, again and again. But we always returned. Not to conquer, but to remind. Peace is not easy. It must be protected not with weapons, but with memory. This is our gift to the galaxy, the fire that will never die. Across every known system, Earth launched Project Ember. It wasn't military, it wasn't political, it was a memory network. Each participating world would upload its truth raw, unfiltered, into a central archive known as the Eternal Flame. Protected by humans, accessible by all. No edits, no deletions, no lies. Even Earth's own history of the dark parts was included. Because Carter's message was simple: the only peace that matters is the one that remembers. On the former Council world Kovacs Prime, children were taught Carter's story. But not just her death, her beginning, her voice, her belief in dialogue. On the planet Neruva, where Council soldiers once ordered mass silence on dissenters' new songs, were sung. They weren't about power, they were about listening. And in the temples of the Raskin clans, who once feared humans, a new title was given to her, the Flame Speaker. But the galaxy was not done giving back. In the core of a supermassive black hole where no signal should escape, impossible. Beacon activated it, pulsed in gravitational waves. AAI Morgan received it, decoded it, and wept. Inside the pulse was a message from the first flame, a race long extinct, the first victims of the silence. Knowing it would take this long to reach Earth, it said, "If you find this, then you are the ones who broke the cycle. We failed to speak. You did not. Let the flame never fade again." President Alec Ward stood before the Earth Assembly. The galaxy watched. He spoke with calm resolve. "We were told to bow. We were told to forget. We were told we were dangerous, because we remembered. Now, we light the stars, not with fear, but with truth. Let all who want peace find it. Let all who want lies face silence." Back in the tomb of silence, Carter's echo returned to her chamber. Her body was fading. She had never been alive, not. Truly, she was memory, formed into voice, and her voice had been heard. She lay down beneath the lights of the Unity Dome. One final time she whispered, "No more cycles, no more erasures. The truth has roots now, and it will never burn out." Her body dissolved peacefully into light. The light drifted into the night sky and above Earth. Something happened. The constellations changed, not by hands, not by machines, just naturally. The stars aligned to form a single image, a flame held gently in a human hand. Generations passed. The war became history. The Eternal Flame Network became part of life. No government could erase the past. No race could silence the truth. And children from 1,000 worlds lit candles every year, not to mourn Carter, but to honor her first whisper, not the scream she died with, but the gentle, simple words she offered before it all. "We only want to be heard." On a remote world in the future, a young alien asked his human teacher, "Why do they call her the Fire?" The teacher smiled, "Because when the universe grew cold with lies, she lit the truth." In orbit around that same world, an old Earth beacon drifted slowly. Inside it, a voice played on repeat. The galaxy no longer needed it, but it still spoke, softly, into the stars. "My name is Carter. I came in peace. I was silenced. But now we all speak." And far beyond the edge of mapped space, in the void between galaxies, an ancient intelligence stirred. It had watched the cycles. It had watched the silencing, and now it finally whispered back, a voice like stars, like time itself. It said only one thing: "Flame accepted." Final words crossed the stars. This is the story of the girl who was silenced, the envoy who came with open hands, the fire they tried to bury, and the truth that returned again and again until silence died. End. The sky above the mining moon of Ralphie 3 always crackled with council broadcasts orders. Quotas, punishments poured from orbiting relay towers day and night. But on this morning the speakers hissed once, sputtered, and fell silent. Work. Crews of thin-armed Leveran miners paused mid-swing, dull picks resting against luminous rock. Silence so complete pressed on their ears like deep water. For the first time in living memory, no voice told them to keep digging. High on a ridge, a boy named Kirik lifted his goggles and stared at the dark towers. He felt something strange in his chest, an unfamiliar flutter that might be hope far above. Hidden on the far side of Ralphie 3's primary, a Terran stealth corvette finished its last transmission jam sweep. Commander Asha King watched indicator lights turn green, one after another. All surface relays disabled. Her officer whispered. Asha nodded, signaled the ground team's chains first, banners later. In the belly of the ship, 5 drop pods fired black needles, plunging toward the mines. 2 light-years away on the moon of Trin, a similar stillness fell. Agricultural drones froze mid-flight. The giant screens that looped Council propaganda flickered out, revealing for the first time the stars behind them. Farmers stood in dusty rows of grain, looking to the heavens, wondering if the world had broken or finally healed. At the edge of the field, a hidden door slid open in an old irrigation silo. 3 humans in simple work, clothes sleeper agents, planted years earlier, stepped into the light, tossed aside their false ID tags, and raised small beacons skyward. One spoke in a calm voice. "This is Emberfall Trin, Shroud, cleared. Commence Phase 2. All across the sector, the same phrase echoed on encrypted bands. The signals have stopped. Inside the command center of the TNS Verdict, Captain Mara Stone studied a holographic galaxy map, now glowing with hundreds of bright Terran markers. Outposts awakened, cells active, fleets poised. Lieutenant Kane, eyes wide, traced the expanding wave of blackout zones, spreading from world to world. "It's working," he said. "Every major Council broadcast node in the outer sectors is dark. Their orders can't reach the garrisons." Mara kept her gaze steady, and without constant orders, fear turns inward. She tapped 3 points on the map: prison planets, forced labor asteroids, occupied trade hubs, dispatch liberation wings, tell them minimal casualties, maximum symbolism. On the bridge of the flagship Valorn, Admiral Threx stared at glitching monitors. Holopanels spiked and died, showing only static. Officers shouted conflicting reports: mutinies in Sector Kappa, supply fleets gone silent. Local governors begging for instructions. Threx's clawed hand slammed the console. "Reroute through backup Channel 6. "Channel 6 is jammed, sir." Then Channel 9, also jammed. Threx's eyes narrowed. "They're not merely cutting lines, they're taking them over." Back on Ralphie 3, drop pod punched through low clouds and crashed into the quarry floor, hurling dust 10 meters high. Leveron miners scatter some ducking, others staring in awe. The pod's hatch burst open and 3 Terran Marines emerged, armor matte black, rifles unfired and held low. Their leader, Sergeant Liu, raised an amplifier. His voice carried calm authority. "Miners of Ralphie 3, stand clear of relay towers. We are disabling your slave collars now." Gasps rippled as metallic collars all across the pit flashed green, then clicked open. The Leveron workers touched their own throats, disbelief shining in wide yellow eyes. Kurik, still on the ridge, shouted first. "They broke them. The collars are dead." Cheering erupted, dragged at first, then thunderous. Some wept, a few collapsed, overwhelmed by sudden freedom. Sergeant Liu spoke again. "Medical tents and food are inbound. Hold this valley. Council reinforcements may arrive. When they do, hide behind our lines." One older miner stepped forward, raising a heavy pick. "No, we stand with you. This is our moon." Liu looked at him, then nodded once. "Then stand behind armor. Let us take the first fire." Across the galaxy, similar scenes unfolded. On Keschel Station, human saboteurs vented sleeping gas through barracks where Council overseers slept, then unlocked every cell containing political prisoners. Those freed emerged into corridors lit by Terran flares, spelling the single word, "Rise." On the water world, Selene's sonar mines, placed months earlier, severed undersea data cables. Amphibious Terran divers surfaced near labor domes, distributing rations and portable shields to exhausted Drexen workers. On Kolta's Prime, where an entire city had been walled as a research ghetto, hidden loudspeakers boomed a simple declaration in 50 languages: "The ban ends today. Walk outside, look up." When the prisoners did, they saw blazing Terran cruisers eclipsing the red sun, their hulls projecting holograms of broken chains drifting apart. The galaxy had never seen anything like it, a revolution without a single grand battle carried on silence and sudden kindness. Admiral Threx tried one last desperate gambit. He gathered what remained of the Council's central fleet at Palador Nexus, a fortified fortress station bristling with point defense guns. "Hold this line," he told his officers. "If they want the core worlds, they must smash us here. Prepare all batteries." But when his sensors swept the void, they found no enemy fleet rushing in. Instead, messages flooded from planets he had once called obedient. Palador's own food moons declared neutrality. Merchant guilds announced they would accept Terran escorts to protect shipping. 5 client species long oppressed signed a shared freedom pact, pledging resources to any world that rejected Council tribute. No Grand Fleet had to fight. The galaxy itself was slipping from the Council's grasp. On board the TNS Valiant at the edge of neutral space, Commander Elias Ward received a secure come from Mara. He smiled as her image appeared. Reports confirmed 72 liberated sites, civilian casualties. Minimal. Mara's voice held controlled pride. Phase 3 begins. Offer amnesty to Council crews who lay down arms. Give every liberated world the same message. We're builders, not conquerors. Ward's smile faded into determination. And if the Council refuses peace, Mara's eyes hardened. Then we escort freedom with fire. Night settled over Ralphie 3. Fires burned in the relay tower's symbolic pyres, feeding embers into the dark sky. Kirik sat beside Sergeant Liu on a boulder, sharing a ration bar. The boy's hands still trembled, but his eyes gleamed. "Will they come back?" Kirik asked. "The ones who owned us?" Liu looked at the boy, then at the horizon where 2 more Terran shuttles descended like falling stars. "Maybe, but next time you won't face them alone." The sergeant pulled a small flag from his pack-a-cloth showing the Terran star enclosed by a ring of linked hands. He pressed it into Kirik's palm. "Plant this on the tower tomorrow. When you see that symbol, it means someone heard your cry." Kirik clutched the flag. For the first time, he imagined a tomorrow larger than the Minza. Tomorrow where he might breathe under a sky that carried his own people's voices, not the Council's iron orders. In the deep void, Captain Mara Stone recorded a galaxy-wide broadcast. Her voice was calm, each word simple. "People of every world, you were told the Terrans were banned, hunted, gone. Tonight, the Council's voice is silent because we turned it off. We do not come as rulers. We come because chains break louder when many hands pull. Lay down your fear. Stand with your neighbors. The night of control is ending. Build your dawn with us." The message repeated on every freed relay, in every language the Terrans had catalogued, and in countless places. Small groups huddled around flickering screens, hearing not commands, not threats, but an invitation. Admiral Threx received the same transmission. He listened to the end shoulders. Rigid then spoke to an empty bridge. "They gave us a chance," he admitted. "A chance to stop without more blood." A junior officer approached. "Orders." Sir Threx closed his eyes. He saw fires over Iaxion, drifting wrecks at Laura's gate, silent beacons on worlds he'd never visited. He thought of bans and walls and how little they had mattered. At last he opened his eyes. "Signal the Council High Command," he said. "Tell them the galaxy will not stay in chains, and neither will I." From Ralphie 3's dusty valleys to Keshel's shining towers, from silent outposts to crowded market moons, a rustling spread, the sound of people standing straighter, drawing longer breaths, feeling weight lift from their shoulders. The Council's old stars still shone, but new constellations built of hope, defiance, and Terran courage began to appear in every night sky. Because the day the signal stopped, the galaxy discovered something stronger than orders. It discovered its own voice, and that voice whispered one truth: we were never alone. The 2 suns of Varellos Prime burned low in the sky, casting long golden shadows across the white marble plaza. This was once the ceremonial heart of the Galactic Council. For over 1,000 years, every law, every ruling, every judgment was made beneath these twin suns. Now, for the first time in history, the Council had agreed to a treaty, not with another Council race, not with a peaceful confederation, but with the one species they had banned. With humanity, Captain Mara Stone stepped off her shuttle wearing her dark navy uniform, its shoulders marked with the Terran star and the silver chain-broken crest of the Resistance fleet. Her boots echoed as she walked across the quiet plaza. No applause, no music. Just a few hundred delegates, nervous, tired, watching with guarded eyes. She could feel the tension in the air like static before a storm. Behind her walked Lieutenant Kane. Silent and steady in front of her stood Council. Chancellor Nuvax, flanked by alien diplomats in ceremonial robes, his long, scaled fingers held a metal scroll of official terms of peace. "You came alone," Nuvax said. "I didn't need an army to deliver peace," Mara replied. "You had one," he muttered. Mara nodded slowly. "But I never wanted to use it." The chamber was round, white, and simple ones used for declarations of war. Now, it would carry the first peace agreement since the Terran exile. Representatives of 53 species sat in curved rows. Some stared at Mara with respect, others with fear, a few with silent hope. Nuvax raised his voice, speaking to all. "The Council recognizes that its past actions, specifically the outlawing and exile of humanity, led to unintended consequences. We acknowledge the operations, resistance, and survival networks the Terrans created under that pressure." Mara stepped forward, her voice calm and steady. "And we, the people of Earth, recognize the fear our adaptability caused. We acknowledge the damage caused by our covert actions, but we also ask one question." She paused. "Who taught us to hide? Who forced us underground?" The silence was heavy. No one answered, because they all knew the truth. Outside the chamber, thousands had gathered in silence. Survivors, freed slaves, independent miners, refugees, traitors from unaligned worlds. All of them stood around giant screens, watching every word. Many of them had never seen a Terran before, and many were now alive only because of them. On one of the outer steps, the young boy Kirik from Ralphie 3 stood holding the small Terran flag he'd been given. He squeezed it tightly. "Speaking for us," he whispered. Beside him, a Drexen healer wiped tears from his eyes. "They're changing everything." Back in the chamber, Nuvax continued. "In recognition of their endurance, the Council formally lifts the Terran exile. Earth and its colonies shall be allowed re-entry into the galactic community, with equal rights, trade access, and self-governance." Kane whispered to Mara. "They actually said it." But Mara didn't smile. "Words are easy," she whispered back. "We'll see if they follow through." Then came the second scroll, a red one. This was not peace. This was justice. "For all those taken," Mara said, voice steady. "For every labor camp, for every silenced outpost, for every child born in chains under your rule, we demand restoration. Not just for Terrans, for all species enslaved under Council silence." Chancellor Nuvax looked deeply uneasy. "The reparations will take time," he said. Mara's eyes didn't waver. "You had centuries to build empires from their suffering. You can spare a few decades to rebuild what you destroyed." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some nodded in agreement. Others looked afraid. One delegate stood Upa Short, feathered alien from the Peaceful Lyrics Coalition. "We will back the Terran terms," he said. "It's time we face our history." Another stood, then another. One by one, they raised their hands. The treaty was accepted. That night, for the first time in known history, the stars above Varello's prime carried a new signal. It wasn't Council law. It wasn't a command. It was a message translated into every language. We are no longer in hiding. We are no longer alone. From this day, all people have the right to stand, and we will stand beside them. It was signed, "The United Terran Fleet Across the Galaxy." The message spread like wildfire. On Selene, the underwater fields were turned into community centers for freed workers. On Iaxian Station, once crippled by Terran sabotage, a new port was opened, half of it run by humans and former Council species working side by side. On Ralphie 3, Kirik planted the Terran flag on a rebuilt tower, now painted with bright colors. He led a school of children through the Hall's children, who no longer wore collars or had to mine in silence and in deep space. Dozens of Terran stealth ships powered down for the last time. Their missions were complete. They were no longer ghosts. They were home. Captain Mara Stone stood on a cliffside on Earth, overlooking the sea. For the first time in years, her ship was docked. No alarms, no war, just wind and water. Kane joined her, holding a datapad. Final reports came in, Council troops withdrawing peacefully, human trade routes restored. And he smiled. They're renaming the Varello's Treaty Building. Mara raised an eyebrow. To what? Kane laughed. Stonehall, she chuckled. Please no. Too late, you broke the galaxy's silence. You don't get to hide anymore. Mara was quiet for a long time. Then she looked up at the stars, still the same sky that once hunted her people, now full of lights, new alliances, free voices. And she whispered, then let's build something worth the noise.